Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode number 8 of Hot for Teacher. It is November the 7th of November, in the year 2017. If you're watching this episode from the distant future, welcome. I mean, if you're watching this episode from the present, you're also welcome too. Hello. Come on into the episode. So if this is the first time you have ever attended an episode of Hot for Teacher, let me explain unto you what Hot for Teacher is. What is going on here? So Hot for Teacher is a relationship advice show that I started some many weeks ago. And in this show, I answer relationship questions. I answer questions about friendship. I answer questions about romance. I answer questions about socializing, things about having relationships with other human beings, because if there's anything more difficult than being a dungeon master, it is being a successful human who relates to other humans. Now, as with the originator of this show, as with Office Hours, Hot for Teacher is a venue for me to share my specific advice about this stuff. I am not a counselor. I am not a therapist. I am merely someone with, now I suppose, 34 years of life experience, many of which of those I have been engaging in relationships. And the reason why I thought, hey, I think I'm qualified to do a show about this stuff is that relationships are something that I think about a lot. I have read books about relationships. I have had relationships. I am in relationships. And honestly, the thing is that I care about them a great deal. And I think that discussing something from a position of passion is a great place to start. You don't have to be a Nobel Prize winning super genius to be able to just engage in a conversation about stuff. So I guess that's the important bit for me, is that this is a show that is meant to encourage further conversation, right? We begin the conversation when you visit my website at adam-koble.com/hot-for-teacher, and you fill out the form and you suggest a topic. Usually the topic is related to something in your own life. And then I answer that question as per my understanding of the world. And I hope that'll begin a conversation for you in your own life, maybe with the people that you're in relationships with. I hope that it'll begin a conversation in the online spaces that feel safe for you to have those conversations. Maybe you're talking about this in Twitch chat. Maybe you are emailing your buds. Maybe you got a good ICQ message thread going. Maybe you're on AOL Instant Messenger. Anybody ever use MSN? Maybe you got a live journal post. You post on your MySpace. Friendster. Neopets. Zombocom. Anyway, we're going to answer some questions about human interaction today. Let us begin at the beginning. Bashful in Baltimore asks, before I answer this question, thank you so much for doing this for me, Bashful in Baltimore. Bashful in Baltimore asks, I feel like such a good radio guy when people they just slow balling it in there. It's a perfect name. Thank you, Bashful. I've never been any good at meeting potential romantic partners outside wherever I'm working at the time. I want to not bother women who, I assume, have enough shit to deal with, and to be respectful of their space. But this leads to my waiting around on dating sites or in AFK with little or no success. The confusing bit is my female friends think I'm shooting myself in the foot. Help. Please help. So bashful. Bashful. There are some implicit things around the way that you ask this question that I think we will need to address, because I think that they I think that they tell us some things about the space that you're in, and I'll get to that as I answer the question. Right? I would like to offer you some advice on how to like meet people and get romantical, but also I would like to address a couple of the things in your question directly, because I think, as with a lot of these, I think that the mindset that you're in and the people around you and the way you're being influenced can mix up what's going on with you. And as always with these questions, you know, there is more, right? There is more to this than just the several sentences that we have. So, Bashful in Baltimore. We've talked in previous episodes about how hard it can be to meet people just like generally, right? I think we all have this problem, right? Almost all of the adults that I know suffer from some degree of, my friends don't like me as much as I like them. I want more friends. I feel lonely. I only know the people I work with. I don't ever want to leave my house. It's hard dating. Like, we all have this sort of post either educational or post occupational, like, I'm only friends with the people that I'm close to because of other stuff problem. So you're not alone. And we've talked a little bit about tricks that you can pull, things you can do to hack your life, to put yourself in a position to build bonds with other people and to socialize. Now, I want to say, first and foremost here, it's nice that you're thinking about how not to be a shitty person who takes up a bunch of space or is obnoxious towards women. And that's cool, but it's also like the baseline default that all human beings should be. This has nothing to do with your other question. I mean, they have some overlap in behavioral changes in the way that you act, but there is no, I think there's this really shitty idea in dating around like being a nice guy and how that can or can't work when you're trying to find someone to date. This question can come across as, yeah, please help. I don't want to come across as predatory, but want to pursue a woman's, right? There's some shitty ideas about aggressiveness or assertiveness or whatever other buzzword you want to use about how a man should be, which you're not even, but it sounds like you're being influenced a little bit by these things. How a person who pursues women should act when they are trying to get a woman's attention, which is just so gross, right? The idea that there are even any specific behaviors at all that will land you a hot chick is just so fucking stupid. People are all really different, and there is no one approach that will simply work because of someone's gender, right? All that kind of advice will get you is social conditioning that reinforces pre-existing bad habits, right? On the worst end of this spectrum, we end up with these cultural cesspools full of shit like pickup artists and how to negatively influence women's self-esteem to get them to like you, and all this horse shit that just leverages toxic masculinity to turn people into abusive pricks, which I think you're not trying to be, right? I don't think that's what your question is about. But the kind of person that's in your position, Bashful, right? This person who's like, I'm having a hard time. I'm having a hard time dating. I'm having a hard time meeting women. I'm having a hard time engaging with them. I feel like I'm being potentially too pushy, but I'm also getting some advice that I should be pushier. That is the kind of mental and emotional state that is exactly right for being manipulated by the kinds of people who are going to give you shitty advice about how to pick up chicks. So thank you for coming to me, and I really hope that I can at least offer some perspective to counter the potential push you're going to get from other people being like, be assertive and be pushy and play mind games. And so I think the problem here might be, in part, there is a cultural deification of romance, right? I think there are a lot of people, men especially, in the world, who struggle with feeling alone, because while they might have a lot of friends they're close to, and they might have family that they love and care about, but without that one special, beautiful princess to love and adore, people who pursue women or are interested in women can feel alone despite all that other stuff. I have all these beautiful rubies. I have this pile of gold. Well, I don't have a diamond yet, though. But it devalues all the other relationships in your life. There are people of all genders who feel incomplete or feel like they are failing at being human because they don't have someone to share their lives with, even when they might have lots of people that they're close to in a non-romantic way. Now, I'm not against love. I'm not against romance in whatever form you want it to take. Even traditional sappy Hallmark culturally normative romance. I'm not against it, if that's what works for you. I like having someone nice in my life to cuddle with and feel special about. I like having crushes. I like getting to really know someone in a way that romantic closeness often facilitates, but I'm against the idea that that's somehow the glorious apex of human connection. It sounds like Bashful here wants to feel like they are able to escape the feeling of being trapped between their own inherent shyness and unwillingness to take up too much space and the external pressure to be more assertive from their female friends. I can't even say the word female without thinking I sound like a Ferengi. So I think that one trick, the one trick that will work for you, Bashful, is realizing there's no trick. You must be the Neo of having relationships. I've talked before about how I think that the rituals of dating are kind of a shitty way to actually get to know a person, and the artificiality of the process that goes date, sex, love, marriage, babies, divorce, death, decay, the void, isn't really how human relationships function. And if you are pursuing an illusion, the best thing you're going to get is something by accident. I think it's fine to notice the absence. It's totally real to want love and romance. I think it's a fact of some humans' life to want someone to do sex at. I think your desires are not wrong. I think it's important to recognize that it's okay for you to want what you want. I'm not judging you or anyone else for that. I don't know that the best solution to feeling lonely or wanting specifically romance in your life is to actively and aggressively pursue it in the way that we're usually taught to. For me, the way that I do relationships and how my life works, I have had lots of different paths. I would go so far as to say that no romantic closeness I have ever had in my life replicated in any meaningful way the process of obtaining that romantic closeness in any other part of my life. Every relationship I've ever had where romance is a thing in it has developed completely differently. I have developed romantic closeness with people who were just make-out strangers, basically, who developed into that mutual attraction that turned into being actually interested and curious about each other in a deeper way. I have had friends who I have developed crushes on, and we have been like, hey, this seems like we could do this thing as a part of our relationship. There are lots and lots of different ways to become romantically close to someone, but I don't know that I've ever had that develop via like going on a date with someone. Which I think probably puts me in a position where I don't like dating. I don't think dating works because it's never worked for me. Maybe it has for other people, but that formality, that ritualistic dance, that knife fight of love, that's a great euphemism. The knife fight of love. I like that. That's nice. I don't know. It's never worked for me. And maybe it doesn't work for you, but maybe it does. I don't know. Point being here, even people that I have met through dating websites like OkCupid or whatever were people first. And then objects of romantic fulfillment, like massively tertiary, if at all. Here's the thing. If you look at every single person like they're a potential romantic partner, 99% of the time you are going to be disappointed. If every woman you meet might be the one, if you are preoccupado with, oh God, is this the one? Is this the one? Could it be? Are you my diamond? Then there's going to be a lot of negative, fucked up failure feelings for you. And you might start feeling like there's nobody out there for you. Here's the thing. The idea of not wanting to be a toxic bullshit person, taking up space and treating women like objects, can be repelled and dispelled by treating women like people. This does not mean babying them or coddling them or like putting them on a pedestal. Doesn't mean treating women like they're fragile or in need of special treatment. It means looking at them like people first. And part of what you can do to do that is by not focusing so damn hard on whether or not they're going to love you. If the only value, ultimately, a person has is whether or not they are someone who might fall in love with you, they're not a person. They're an emotional lottery ticket. And when you have a lottery ticket that doesn't win, what do you do with it? We throw it away. If you end up looking at every woman as a potential source of romance jackpot, you look at almost every woman like a scrap of paper that you don't need anymore. This is the problem with dating. It creates failure states far, far more often than it creates success. And if you want to be a respectful person who isn't invasive and shitty, but still wants to have the potential for like romance and love in your life, go out and like make friends with women. Have women around you. Like be in relationships of all sorts with them. And if you want people to be curious and interested in you, treat them like people you are curious and interested in without having an end goal. Imagine that every woman that you interact with is a potential friend. Someone who might fit into an organic space in your life. And if you don't aim for some specific thing, and keep in mind that they might not want to be a part of your life in the way you want them to, you can develop relationships that are meaningful and important and significant that will bolster you when you're feeling lonely and sad, right? If you can de-emphasize that love is the most important thing without saying you're not allowed to want it, right? I'm just saying don't aggressively pursue it as a thing that is the only kind of relationship that is fulfilling, and give yourself some space to just organically have relationships with women, whatever form those relationships take. And keep in mind, regardless of how any of this goes, not liking someone isn't a failure if you're just going into meeting them as a matter of curiosity. And them not falling in love with you isn't a failure on your part or on their part either, right? Now, I know it's cliche advice, but the harder you want a specific kind of relationship, the less likely that is going to just come along and happen. We get caught up in this desperate search for specificity, and we lose out on organic relationships. So value women as friends. Value women as strangers, right? People you have nothing to do with. Be an interesting person. Have hobbies. Be passionate about things. Be who you are, and let people make their own call about you. Go back and follow the advice that I've given before about like just generally how to meet people. Not with an ulterior motive in mind, but just to meet them. Some of those people you meet will be women. Most of those women will not want to date you. Some of them might, but don't let that be the most important thing about your interaction with them. People are going to give you all kinds of bullshit advice. And I bet some of my advice is going to feel like or just be bullshit for you as well. And that's okay. You should make your own way in the world. For me, romance is a thing that evolves or doesn't. It doesn't make my relationships better or worse, but can deepen or broaden them, or might not. I kind of hate romance as a thing because I think it creates a false distinction about intimacy, but that's not what you're asking about here. All I can say, and I think this is really, really important for everyone to hear, is that dating is not about, especially if you're a man, which I know Bashful is not, but I am. So dating is not about a spectrum of nice guy who doesn't want to be annoying to women and super aggressive pickup artist fuckbag. It's not about that. Romance is a byproduct of a certain kind of chemistry, but it's not the be all and end all of how to have relationships. If it's going to develop, it will develop. And if you're feeling it with someone and you're in tune to what your feelings are like, and you have experience being around people and the vast diversity of the way that they express their emotions, you will be able to notice when that chemistry is developing, right? Be emotionally intelligent. Pick up on this stuff and learn to gently explore it with a person and with their consent, right? Romance develops between two people. It is an organic thing that is the byproduct of people's interactions. And if you start to feel those feelings with someone, hopefully you've done the work to show that they matter to you as a person, first and foremost, and that you've developed honesty with them so you can talk about these things. And you developed honesty with yourself, right? Be open to the idea of romance. Be aware of it. Be aware of how that feels when that's developing with someone. But don't put that expectation on other people. Go out, meet new people, see what develops, prioritize curiosity and growth, and let what happens happen. And I know that's really hard to do when you really want something. This is like me saying, I know you really want spaghetti. You got tacos, you got hamburgers, you got a delicious buffet of exciting foods around you, but you really want that spaghetti. Don't treat everybody like a potential spaghetti dinner. Your spaghetti will come along. You just have to be open to all these other foods. Metaphors, everybody. They make things easier to understand. Sometimes. Spagooter. It isn't about making people like you. It isn't about having the right approach. It's just about being like a decent, likable, interesting person who is brave and understands how they feel and is willing to be honest with themselves and with other people. And it's about letting someone who is compatible with the kind of interesting that you are come along. I know it's hard. I know it's really hard. It's super hard to want something and not to have it. It's a bullshit way to feel. I'm really sorry, but keep at it. Prioritize yourself. Have a good relationship with you. Learn what relationships feel like, and then be patient and appreciate the things that you have. Okay? Okay. Question the second comes to us from Alex, but I don't think it's that Alex. I think it's a different Alex. So question 2, Alex asks, how do I stop pushing people away? I just want someone to love and be loved by, but I seem to be incapable of that due to my social anxiety and depression. I'm so desperate for someone to be with that it scares them away, and this history of repeating the same mistakes makes me more scared every time I begin a new relationship. It's not fair to me to prejudge new partners based on my past experience, but I don't seem to be able to help but just do that time and time again. Even when things are fine, I can't help but worry about how I might screw it up in the near future. I feel like whenever I enter a potential new relationship, I'm walking through a minefield, and any move I make might be the wrong one and drive them away. I wish it was simple. I wish I was normal. It's so easy for everyone else. So this question is heartbreaking. Not because it is particularly or like especially uniquely tragic, but because I think it is so easy to empathize with. I think at some point or another, everyone, no matter the kinds or quantity of relationships they've had, has felt that way. Which is what's so sad and tragic about this question. Like, we're all sitting here reading this question, thinking about it, and we are all feeling that, or have felt that feeling of, I wish it was simple. I wish it was easy. I wish it was normal. I wish I was like everyone else. But everyone else is feeling that too. We have all felt that, or most people have felt that. Everybody gets this sensation, this feeling, goes to this place where things just feel shitty and you feel broken, and somehow every other person on earth seems to just like know what to do and have what we don't, right? We see people with their successful lives and their happy relationships and their close friends and allies, and we feel like we have none of those. Whether it's because of mental health stuff, you know, like Alex says, depression, social anxiety, or it's about inexperience, whether it's about a general feeling of awkwardness, whatever it is, I think most people feel like a total relationship fuck up once in a while. So 2 things, Alex, and everybody else who's hearing me say this and is feeling like Alex feels. You're not alone in these feelings. And 2, you're wrong. You're wrong about you being abnormal. You are wrong about you being a fuck up. You are wrong about it being hard for you and easy for everyone else. But that doesn't mean that you're wrong about it being hard for you. Because I hear that, and I hear you. It sounds like you've got some really unsteady ground and some tricky stuff going on that is making connecting to other people hard for you. And that shit is real. I don't want you to feel like I don't want you to feel like I'm passing you off, but I want to suggest that if you are not already, a good place to start is to see a counselor or see a therapist, which I know is scary. And there's a lot of social stigma around it. There's a lot of social stigma around like admitting that you are broken enough, in big sarcastic quotation marks, that you are broken enough to need someone else's help. But as a person who has done this a bunch of times, it's actually super worthwhile if you can find the right person and you can afford to do so. It's a real bummer that even in Canada, where I live, where healthcare is pretty well taken care of by taxes, mental health is less so. And I've had to pay more or less out of pocket every time I've seen a therapist, and it's been worth it for me. But I know that that's not always going to be the case. Unlike your friendly neighborhood Twitch streamer, a counselor or a therapist is trained in specifically providing you with aid in getting better, getting through stuff, working out things that feel like chronic impediments to your well-being. I can happily offer you advice and reinforcement, but I promise a counselor will do a better, more personal job. In the meantime, though, let me talk a little bit about baggage, but the idea of carrying around things from one relationship to another. People learn by doing, right? We learn how relationships work. We learn how people are. We learn about ourselves. We learn how to be around people by being around them and being told how being around them should go. The way one relationship turns out and the lessons that we learn informs us about how the next one will be, right? It's one to another. If what is true in this relationship, if that is true, then it will also be true in my next one. The way one relationship turns out is the way the next one is. If you're in a shitty relationship where you're unhappy and treated poorly now, that's just how relationships are, right? No, it's just not even a little true. No, not at all. Like learning not to jam our hand on a hot stove, we can start to develop assumptive patterns instinctively about how things are going to be. It is especially bad. It is especially bad when we turn that negative shit inward, because if someone else is being a douchebag, it is easier to get away from them than if we think we are the douchebag. Alex is feeling like he is broken. Like he is the problem. Like he is why relationships are impossible, because he is depressed and desperate and can't make it work. Except that that's not how it goes, Alex. It takes two to tango, but it can help if you know the moves. The combination of having mental health issues that get in the way of your feeling safe in relationships and having bad experiences that pile up behind that can result in this self-destructive, reinforcing mess. And you might feel like shit is impossible and that nobody will ever love you because you ruin everything. But damn, that really discounts the agency of like every other person on earth. I talk a lot, I think, on this show about confidence, about how important it is to have a good relationship with ourselves. And while I think it's easy to see how much other people like me as related or connected to how much I like myself, they're not the same thing. If they were, I would be in a really bad place because I get a lot of negative reinforcement from the internet about all kinds of things about me. I mean, I get a lot of positive reinforcement too that balances it out, but neither of those things fundamentally matter. They can inform and they can adjust my idea of myself. But Alex, what I think you need to do is work on your relationship with you and start by doing some self-care that centers around finding a counselor or a therapist that can help you on that journey inward. We don't have to do this shit alone. We are bolstered by the people around us, whether they are our close and much loved friends or they are a trusted internet stranger. And Alex, you have proved today to me and to several hundred other people, you are not afraid of asking for help. And I want you to know that that is a thing that I am proud of you for. And I think you should be proud of yourself for. Even though it's a semi-anonymous approach, you took that step. You reached out to me here, right now. And I think that's really brave. So, good job. Thank you. Thank you for taking care of yourself. And I think the next thing is getting someone who can help you untangle some of that negative stuff you're feeling around yourself. That can help you work through how depression and anxiety are affecting your life and help you develop strategies to cope with that. Therapists and counselors will not cure you. There is no cure to depression or most mental health stuff. You learn through all sorts of different stuff, through meditation, through medication, through practice, through self-understanding. You learn how to cope with those things. You build survival strategies. You create ways and tools to make it easier to deal with. It is not a simple thing to take care of yourself. And it can hurt to try to work this stuff out. It can be a hard process, but work on yourself, making yourself better and more capable is always worthwhile. I know that you want somebody to love, and I know it's fucking corny, but you are that person first for yourself. Once you can develop an understanding of and an intimacy with yourself, you can start worrying about other people. But remember, you're not alone. This isn't easy for anyone. It's not easy for me. It's not easy for you. It's not easy for the people who are watching this right now. Other human beings, in fact, all human beings, ourselves included, are a puzzle at best and a complete mystery at worst. We just get better at being okay with that and seeing that puzzle in a positive light. If you surround yourself with people who will support you and you do the work, the rest will come in time. You are a person for whom the effort and cost are worthwhile. Whatever you may feel, I'm telling you right now, you deserve it. Sometimes I feel like I'm not able to help really, but I would like at least to be able to encourage behaviors that let people help themselves. Question 3, our final question for today, comes to us from GDMB. GDMB says, I have great regrets about the way my last romantic relationship ended. It led to a shocking revelation where I realized I couldn't autopilot my way to being a good friend or a good boyfriend. I did something bad. I was, and might still be, a bad person. I've counted the days, and at the time of my writing this, it's been just over a year since the breakup, and since then I've been a hermit. I've gotten to the point where I've gotten back a bit of my confidence, and I don't want to be lonely anymore. I want to be in an intimate relationship again, but I'm worried. I'm worried that I haven't redeemed myself in some way, because I'll hold on to the guilt of what I've done. I need to do something to move past it, but I don't know what. I don't know that you can help me, but I hope you can provide some insight that might help me. All right. So there's a lot of stuff here. And I think maybe now y'all can see some patterns in the questions I picked for today's episode. Now, I know this episode is kind of a heavy one, and like there aren't any haha sex jokes questions today, but people are hurting, yo. So we're going to try to help. And I want to talk a little bit. Sorry, I'm getting myself some tea. I want to talk a little bit about the difference between doing bad things and being a bad person. So let's begin by throwing out the idea that there are good and that there are bad people in the world. Let's forget about the idea of assessing anyone, ourselves included, in black and white terms. Let's not look at people and say, this person is bad, because we are not Dungeons and Dragons characters, and none of us can detect alignment. We're a complicated mixture of thoughts and feelings, of urges and desires and struggles that come from a huge variety of places. Right? The way we're raised, our cultural and social biases, our biological stuff. If we restrict all the bad behavior in the world to bad people, or inversely, we label everyone who does a bad thing as a bad person, we limit our ability to see things the way they actually are, and we fuck up the way we interact with people, including ourselves. So if I do a bad thing, say I mistreat someone, for example, right? I do a thing that they don't like. I do a thing that hurts their feelings or negatively impacts them. And I have the bad action means bad identity model in place. I am a bad person. People who do bad things are bad people, right? Bad person becomes inherent. Bad person is built into my identity. If my bad act makes me a bad person, I can begin to identify that way. It becomes part of who I am. This sort of negative self-identification can lead to some really fucked up behavior, where either I'm hopeless and self-defeating because I'm a bad person and why bother? Nobody will ever love me. I'm bad. Or it can go that other way. And I can be like, fuck it. I guess I'm just a bad person. No reason to try and be good. Let's just live that dirtbag fuckboy life. You can see this kind of thinking happen anywhere that discipline is required in a person's life, right? Say you are trying not to spend money. There is definitely a point where your credit card debt, for example, goes from, I can still handle this, I can take care of it, to, fuck it, I'm in debt, I'll be in debt forever. Fuck it, I'm just gonna bury myself in debt. What's the difference between $1,000 and $10,000? Let's do it. This self-destructive fuck it attitude can happen with ethics too, where you're like, well, I guess I'm just a bad person, which is not what GDMB is doing. Yeah, dieting is a classic example of this, right? I'm saying we shouldn't identify ourselves or others as bad people because of those reasons. However, a pattern of harmful acts is a thing worth worrying about. If you find yourself in a position to consistently make the people around you feel bad, and you are doing so, or you are doing shitty things that either in the moment or immediately thereafter you know are shitty, you're still not a bad person, because morality isn't inherent, but you're gonna need to change your ways. Now let's be real. While I don't think it's healthy to say bad acts make us bad people, there are some acts we ought to consider immediate, huge red flags. Some stuff is shitty enough that if you do it even once, it is time to stop and check yourself. The inverse of all of this is that if we only allow bad acts and bad people to be linked, right? If only bad people can do bad things, it lets us justify ourselves in a lot of bad behaviors. For example, only awful people abuse their loved ones. Only bad people are abusive. I'm just, mean when I'm drunk. I'm not a bad person. Only racists are culturally appropriative. So whatever I'm doing can't possibly be that, because I'm not a racist. So instead, let's look at it this way. Everybody makes mistakes. Once in a while, everybody is a fuck up. It's super, super important to try really hard not to be a fuck up in a way that hurts other people. But there's no such thing as a perfect person. Someone who has never once made a mistake or never done anything malicious or accidentally been unsupportive or selfish or shitty. The best way that we can prepare for this kind of thing is getting better at recognizing it and apologizing for it. Apology is a really, really useful tool for being a better person than you are, for making good on the bad things that we do. Not because it's there to make us feel better, because it's the right thing to do, and doing good things is a reassuring act and can help alleviate the guilty feeling we get when we know we hecked up real bad. So I don't know if you, GDMB, apologized for whatever shit you did, but if you didn't, and you feel like you're a bad, crappy jerk, you need to apologize. And not halfway either. Saying you're sorry is really hard, but if you're actually sorry, you ought to make it known. Right? Say you're sorry because you're expressing that you are sorrowful. You're expressing your regret, not because you want to be absolved. Your absolution is no one, especially the person that you made feel bad, no one's responsibility. Say you're sorry because you want the other person to know you are sorry, and so that they can heal and get better. And don't expect their response to be anything other than, okay, you said it. But that's a pretty good place to start. Right? In fact, I think apologizing is pretty damn necessary. It sounds like you're feeling a little sorry for yourself. That you know you did a bad stuff and you're letting a bad stuff get to you. So instead of writing yourself off as a bad person and just living in that identity, worried it'll just come up out of nowhere like you're some sort of were douche, you're gonna wanna own it. Recognize you've done some bad shit in the past. Own up to it. Apologize. And then work out how to avoid doing the same shit again. Work out the pattern. And like I told Alex, seeing a counselor can really help you with this. And figure out what caused you to do the bad shit. And then find ways to avoid getting yourself into that place again. I feel like if you're thinking you don't know if you're ready not to do the bad stuff to people, maybe you shouldn't be trying to find people to get close to, however lonely you might be. I know you want to be in an intimate relationship again. You want to feel close to someone. You're aching to feel redemption. But honestly, it doesn't really sound like you're ready. Uncertainty is a given in human existence. And when we don't trust ourselves, uncertainty can be all-consuming. And it's okay for you to feel uncertain. But if you think there's a risk you're going to do somebody wrong, you probably still need to do more work. You need to get to a place where you can trust yourself to understand what makes you act like a jerk and know how you can not do that stuff. For some people, these triggers are easier to recognize than others, though they may not be easier to avoid. For example, if you know that drinking alcohol makes you act like a dick, get sober. It will reduce the chance that you will be a drunk asshole. Most of the time, though, it's more complicated than that, and these sorts of behavioral patterns need work to untangle. I am going to suggest that you do not put any other human being in a position to feel bad because of your action if you think that you are at risk of being a dick. In the same way, if you think there is a pattern developing, do not put somebody in the path of that pattern. It is irresponsible, like making out with someone when you have the flu. Plus, if you want to be better first and be not lonely second. Don't beat yourself up over it. Don't emotionally self-flagellate. Don't paint yourself as a bad guy. Just acknowledge you did a bad thing. You have negative patterns. Apologize for the shit that you do. Make amends. And then do better. Do better. And get help doing better. You don't have to self-improve all alone. Thanks for coming, everybody. This has been episode number 8 of Hot for Teacher. This is a write-in relationship advice show that I've been doing for some weeks now. And if you have a question for this guy, go to www.adam-coble.com, click that Hot for Teacher link, fill out the form, and I would love to answer your question on the air. Thanks for coming, everybody. We will see you next time.